grit, and taking the path less traveled right now on the Leadership Voice. Welcome to the Leadership Voice. I'm your host, Jay Barbuto. Today, we continue our Grit series with a special guest, Kim Letch from EY. Kim is the managing partner at EY in Orange County, and she started her career as a chartered accountant in Australia. She found her way to the UK, and eventually, in 1999, came to the US for what she thought was going to be a 2-year stay. Please welcome a terrific person, a great leader, and an advocate, Kim Letch.
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning and to talk about this grit conversation.
Oh, it's terrific. Thank you, Kim, for joining us. Can we talk a little bit about your background and how you came to find your way into how you ended up coming to the U.S.?
Yes, more than happy to have that conversation. I never, ever expected to be here. I was quite happily working in the UK with EY when the guy that I was dating announced that he wanted to come over to the US and do some continuing education, an MBA. And I had a choice. Did I want to marry him and go, or did I want to stay in the UK where I was? And obviously, I made the move, and I went to talk to my partners at EY in London to explain that I needed to resign. I was going to the US, to which they said, "You do know we have an office in Chicago where you're going. Would you like us to make calls on your behalf?" And I said yes. So that was the Monday, and by the Friday, I knew what day I would be starting with EY, what position I would have, and that facilitation was made for me. And so I started in the US, in Chicago, thinking, 2 years of business school for my husband, maybe a year after that of work experience, and then we would return to Australia, where I had imagined the bulk of my career would be. Obviously, that was not the case.
So, Kim, when you were first faced with this decision, at the time you weren't aware that there was the option of actually transferring your role to a new city.
Yes and no. I mean, EY is a global firm with offices all around the world. But I didn't want to be presumptuous either and just assume, oh yeah, there's a position for me in Chicago. Of course they're going to do that. And it was a real lesson for me, Jay, about not making decisions on behalf of others, to ask the question and let other people say no, instead of automatically assuming that the answer is no. If I don't ask the question, of course the answer is no. And so the partner that I spoke to in London really took the decision out of my hand and made the inquiries on my behalf. It was a really great lesson that I've taken since that time and try to apply to others that I work with as well. Even though I think they might not like the client or other opportunity to which I'm posing to them, ask them and let them say no instead of saying no on their behalf.
Yeah, it sounds like you had developed enough, we call it internal currency with EY, that this is a person we would want to keep in our organization. So yeah, you need to move to another city, but there may be opportunities for you to stay with EY. And I love how you reminded our viewers, and really all of us, that you should find out, you should ask the questions, because making assumptions and then making decisions based on those assumptions, it never gets us where we want to be, does it?
No, it really doesn't. Don't ask the question. The answer is already no, and it doesn't advance the cause at all. So I am most grateful to that partner and for the lesson that I've learned. And, I hope I had the currency to be in a position for him to want to speak up on my behalf. I want to be worthy of the trust that others have in me. And so I work really hard for that.
So you're in Chicago and you found your way to California. and eventually to OC. Tell us about how these changes sort of developed.
Again, it was really at the instigation of my husband, who took a job in San Diego, and EY kindly, this time I did ask, and EY kindly transferred me down to San Diego, where I was working for about a year. And during that time, I had actually been asked to come up here, drive up to Orange County to work on a client and really develop a relationship. One of my strengths, I think, is my ability to talk, as you can tell, and have a conversation with a client and develop relationships. And there was a client up here that needed those sort of skills, and I commuted for about 6 months before EY asked me, would I consider moving up here to Orange County, which I did. The irony of that, Jay, is that I still couldn't believe that I was still with EY. I was here in the US, I was not back in Australia. I had transferred to San Diego that didn't have financial services clients the same way that Chicago had, and that's what I worked on. And all of these moments were inflection points for me to think about, is this still what I want to be doing? Do I enjoy what I'm doing? Or should I be doing something else? And actually, with so much change, the reflection and conclusion I came to was, actually, I really like what I'm doing. I really like the people that I'm doing it with, and I really like the clients that I'm serving. So I'll stay for another few years and see what happens until, of course, my husband and I are ready to go back to Australia and work there.
So as you think about, so you're in Orange County and things are looking good, looking promising, and so you start thinking about bigger opportunities, and suddenly you had a major dilemma you had to really consider. Could you talk about your decision to go back to school?
I can. One of the great things about working at EY is that there is a very defined promotion path, and work hard, do good work, and you get promoted. And because I had been with EY in Australia, London, Chicago, San Diego, over a number of years, I had got to the level of senior manager. And as many people may know, after senior manager, it's a potential promotion to partner. So after I'd been working in the Orange County office for a year or two, one of my partners came to me and said, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to work toward making partner here at EY? And having agreed that that was an option, I was told, well, you can't be a chartered accountant in the US to make partner. You need to be a CPA. And I'm like, I can do that. I'll just, how hard can that be? Famous last words. Unfortunately, it was around the same time that they changed the rules for qualification for the CPA exam from needing 120 semester hours to 150 semester hours of education. I did not have 150 semester hours of education, nor did I understand the concept of semester hours, and that 150 hours was not the same as 150 semester hours. So having worked through the fact that I needed about 20 incremental semester hours of education to even qualify to take the CPA exam, it was a real point of deliberation. Is this really what I want to do? Because 20 semester hours is a really big commitment. I was relatively new in Orange County. I had a child who was under 2 years of age, and I had just found out that I was 3 months pregnant with our second child. I had a lot of conversations about this with my husband. We're a partnership. He had to be in this too, because a lot of the outside study responsibilities and care for our son and other things in the period that I would need to commit to study would fall on him. In addition to talking a lot with my partners at work, because I needed flexibility from them to be able to do it. And having reconciled that I could do all of that and that room would be made for me, I could apply and do some subjects at Cal State Fullerton over the summer. Ask myself, is this really what I want to do? I thought I was done with school, done with exams. Do I really want to go back and do that again? And I'm a chartered accountant. I worked really hard for that qualification. Why is that not enough? But I really liked what I was doing, and I was good at what I was doing, and I really liked the people I was working with. So I said, you know what? If I don't try, I will never know.
And that's
So I got to try.
And it's
I
such
got
a
to try.
commitment. It's such a commitment too, because a lot of people, most students, especially in the U.S., they understand that 20 semester hours is 300 hours of learning, because every semester hour they meet 1 hour for 15 weeks, or that's typical. And so you're talking about 300 hours of further education, which you did at a great university,
yes,
at Cal State Fullerton. So you are a Cal State Fullerton Titan.
I am indeed.
You're another Titan that has some measure of pride for the university and success, that the university can point to your journey and say that they played a small part in that journey that we can all be proud of. So
small but pivotal, Jay.
Absolutely.
I don't want to understate the importance of that time at Cal State Fullerton, because I knew if I got through the education and completed the CPA exam, I put myself in a position to make partner with EY. And that was a big deal for me. And I still feel like it was a big deal to have that privilege. Without it, I had to go look for another career and decide, well, what else do I want to do? What's my alternative?
It was interesting when you were talking about your other crossroads earlier in your career, the decision to go from UK to US. You learned then that you should ask. And then when you're deciding to go from Chicago to San Diego, you immediately asked, like you had already understood that that's part of that process. And now faced with this dilemma of, do I go back to school and go on the partner path, or do I just rule that out and maybe either continue my career as it is, or, take a different path?
Right. Am I committing to something that I'm just stuck on, right? And escalating that commitment of like knocking my head against a wall, or is this something that really is going to drive, longer term career opportunity and success? It was not without effort, Jay, not without effort, and a lot of effort. 10 weeks, 8 classes at Cal State Fullerton over the summer. I'm grateful for the time off from work, because I couldn't have done both at the same time. But it wasn't easy. As I said, 3 months pregnant.
And so to make this work, Kim, you needed to have a lot of answers from several different people. And so you talked about always making sure that you ask. You had asks of the company. You certainly had asks of Cal State Fullerton. You certainly had asks, family types of asks. When did you know this was going to work? That you could do this? This was the path you were going to take. Like, what was the tipping point for you?
The commitment of my support system made a really big difference. Other people were willing to say yes and take on more themselves to facilitate the time and opportunity for me. As hard as I was working, the effort and everything that I was doing wasn't in isolation. The partners and other managers at work who were willing to take on more of a workload. My husband was willing to take on more of a workload. Cal State Fullerton was prepared to, open classes to me. It was other people's confidence that they could help me to get this done that was incredibly inspiring and reassuring, but also carried a weight of responsibility as well. Well, if all these other people are committed, I better study hard and get through this, right?
Yeah, you
Put
know what to
myself
say.
in a position to succeed.
Yeah, thank you, EY, thank you, family, thank you, Cal State, and then drop out. So yeah,
Yeah.
is that not an option?
Not an option. I completed the 10 weeks at Cal State Fullerton, and then I had to fill out all the paperwork to do the CPA exam. And at that time, the one benefit I did get from being a chartered accountant was that they offered the CPA exam in the form of an IQEX exam. It's a 4.5-hour exam offered, in one period during the year. In November, I scheduled the last possible date. And so I think it was between August and the end of November, every night and on weekends, I studied, in preparation for this 4.5-hour exam that covered every topic imaginable from the CPA exam. And 36 weeks pregnant, sat the exam. And it was all done electronically. And I remember going in and out, to get water, to use the restroom, to come back and answer the questions, and then having to wait 2 months after that for confirmation. Did I pass or not? It was exhausting, candidly.
These types of moments that when we have them, when we face them, and when we work through them, they usually bring us such clarity and insights. So what did you learn from that part of your career path, like your decision to do this, your success in doing it, coming through, passing the CPA? What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think on reflection, I learned that having a support system is critical. That other people were there as my infrastructure and support and help made a big difference. And even today, and the tendency to think, well, I can do something and I can get it done. It's not just about me. I need the broader, and we are better for having the broader support system and moving together as opposed to alone. I think I learned that that more is possible than I thought that I could accomplish. And although it's hard, it doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Yes, there were sacrifices, but, Jay, this is, 15 years later. It's a year of sacrifice compared to, 15 years later of really enjoying being promoted to partner and, working in that capacity with EY. And it's opened so many doors and opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise enjoyed.
It sounds like you had an amount of transparency as well in that process that probably worked in your favor.
I hope so. I think so, because, by asking for other people for help, even things like, how do I get the semester hours? What does that mean? What do I have to do? It let other people be part of the solution as well. Realizing that, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to do it all by myself. And I'm better not doing it by myself, candidly.
So if you were talking with somebody and they're facing their crossroads, and I think we all face our crossroads at different points in our careers, where we have to make some tough calls or tough decisions, decide which path to take. What advice would you give somebody when they're facing their crossroads?
Just because it's hard, it doesn't mean it's not worth doing. But if it's worth doing, do it because it is worth doing, because it's what you enjoy, because it's worth the path that you want to take and where it's going to take you and what it is that you want to do. And I think too, I'm a big believer, Jay, in moving forward. The decisions in the past don't matter. I don't know what my life would have been like had I not done the extra study, the CPA exam, but I do know what it is by virtue of the choices and decisions that I made. And I think make a decision. That's really what I would tell people. There's no wrong decision. Make the decision and then make the most of it and move forward. I do believe that my career has been a series of stepping stones, none of which I could have predicted, when I was growing up in Australia, that this would be the journey. But the worst decision I could ever have made was to not make a decision at all and to just stay in the status quo.
Yeah. And it sounds like, as you describe it, Kim, one of the things that I hear as a clear message to everyone is to make an informed decision. And that sometimes you don't have all the information.
That's right. That's right. You don't have, most of the time we don't have all the information, Jay. And as I clearly tell a lot of the people I work with, I am not a fortune teller. I cannot see the future. I know there are futurists out there that do a good job, but even the futurists, the best in the world, the reason they're so good is because they're constantly editing what they anticipate and think that is going to happen. I have my son now, 17 years old. That young boy is 17, trying to decide what he wants to do for college. And I said, all you need to do is be curious. You don't have to have all the answers and decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. You just have to decide what's the next step and be curious and open and willing to what comes next more than anything else.
Oh, that's terrific. And these are some great lessons. Kim, we do have a couple of questions from our audience. So let's go ahead and turn to those. Our first question actually comes from Jesse Garcia in Santa Ana. And Jesse asks us, Kim, who do you look up to for inspiration?
Thank you, Jesse, for your question. It's a good one. I'm going to answer it by saying, there's no one individual that I would say that I would look up to. Actually, it's looking to a range of different people and experiences and ideas for inspiration. And the inspiration for me becomes motivation for the leader I want to be or the way I want to interact with people. The last 12 months, I'll give you an example. The last 12 months in particular, I have really enjoyed listening to podcasts on my walk of the dog early in the morning. I don't know how much the dog has enjoyed it, but I really enjoy it. And I love listening to, Brené Brown or Adam Grant or others just talk about the dynamics of organizations and psychology and leadership. And for me, I find that very inspiring for purposes of taking on what's meaningful and what for me and the kind of leader that I want to be.
And in some ways, we didn't even talk about it this way, but what you're describing is our network, and
that's right,
and how we use our network to the best. A lot of times, people think a network is just people but really, it's in your case, in the way you've described it, it's people that you can turn to, and I'm sure also people that can turn to you as well.
I would hope so. And I don't want to leave out, Jay, how much I have been inspired by you and your students. I have really appreciated that you invite me every year to come and engage with your students and understand, what's top of mind for them. What does their journey look like? What are they looking for in an employer? And how to best, present themselves or be considered for EY and just to be leaders. And I've really enjoyed that dialogue. And I hope that they have been inspired by me as much as I have been inspired by them. I think that network, it's mutual, right? That interaction.
Oh, that's terrific. So we have time for one more question. And that question comes from Minal Cho from Westminster. Minal asks, what were some of the cultural challenges you faced after moving to a different country?
Manal, Speaking the same language was the first challenge. Even though I came from Australia and England, apparently there are 3 dialects of English, and translating each of those and speaking the same language is not what you would imagine. And so I remember in my early days in the US talking about, I'm going to go get some lunch. I'm just going to take the lift. And people looking at me like, you're going to take what? The elevator. And realizing what the translation was. So translating my words was a very big cultural hump. And I thought I spoke English, so I can only imagine people who speak different languages, what that challenge must be like. I think the other cultural challenge I face that I would refer to is migrating my sense of humor and helping people to understand my sense of humor. As Australian by birth, my humor is dry, sarcastic, full of irony, and that can be taken the wrong way, Jay. People think that I'm being critical and sarcastic when really I'm just making fun and having fun. And I know that doesn't always translate culturally, because having delivered some of those comments, I've met with the silent, pregnant pause, dead zone that says, that did not translate.
So it's probably helped to shift or adjust some of your use of those kinds of oratory techniques.
It has, most definitely. And realize that it's not enough just to put myself in my shoes, but put myself in the shoes of the recipient as well. And understand not just that I'm culturally different, but so are they. What is their perspective? What is their journey? Where are they coming from? As a way of helping to translate those cultural differences. I want them to understand me and who I am without giving up some of my irony, but I want them to come my direction as well, and realize that it doesn't have to be all, slapstick physical humor that my son loves so much and enjoys. It's just, it doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it worse. It's just different. But the importance of communication and sharing and helping each other to understand, I'm in these shoes and here's why, and the lens through which I come from has been a big help to overcoming some of those cultural challenges. And I'm not there yet, just to be clear, Jay, not there yet.
A little bit of humility and a little bit of openness goes a long way when we're working with other cultures.
100%. I don't have to be right. I just want to get to the right answer. That's all.
Terrific. Well, Kim, I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We've gotten to unpack a lot of great pearls of wisdom in your journey, and talk a lot about the path that you've had to take and the different kinds of crossroads that you've faced during your career. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jay. I very much enjoyed it, and I look forward to flipping the roles at some point, so that perhaps I can be the one asking you the question. I know that the Leadership Voice is coming up on its 10-year anniversary. Perhaps it's time that you were on the other side of the table and answered some questions. Well, maybe we'll see that time. Maybe we'll see that day. Thank you, Kim, for joining us on today's episode. And thank you, our viewers, for joining us as well. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe our videos. We are changing lives together. Please join us for each episode of the Leadership Voice as we bring you relevant themes and topics to guide you in your leadership development journey. On behalf of the Center for Leadership at Cal State Fullerton, I'm Jay Barbuto, and we'll see you next time right here on the Leadership Voice.